Sir Arthur. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well, John. Exquisite weather we're having.
Yes, it would be a great day to go pearl diving, just like the main character Kino in my renowned novel, The Pearl.
Yes, that was a great read. What would you say gave you the inspiration to write that novel?
My mother reading to me on a daily basis gave me the inspiration to write all my books. Ever since I was a small child, I loved all literature. How about you, Arthur? Where did your inspiration to start your impressive writing career come from?
I needed more money to maintain my career as a doctor. Although I loved writing for a long time, the true inspiration to start my career as an author was the monetary success. But speaking of you as a child, what was your childhood like?
I was born and raised in Salinas, California. Since Salinas was mostly a farming town, I worked on many ranches growing up, just like many characters in my books. I had three sisters and I was the only boy. I loved playing sports, but most of all, I loved literature. My mother recognized my love for literature and she began to read to me every day at a very young age. How was your childhood, Arthur?
Well, I was born and raised in Edinburgh, Scotland, with 9 siblings. Only 6 survived past early childhood. I spent most of my time reading and writing. John Hill, a local man, gave me the taste for book collecting, something I kept with me for the entirety of my life. As a teen, I joined and became the boss of a Catholic gang. I fought the local minister's son. I went to Jesuit school in northern England. I graduated and went to Feldkirk College in Austria for a year before going to Edinburgh University in Scotland. It was an interesting time in my life. What was your education?
I loved reading and writing since I was young, so I excelled in my schooling. I attended Salinas High School and graduated in 1919. Afterward, I attended Stanford University, but I only took classes that interested me, never looking to obtain my degree. I knew I wanted to become a writer, and that's what I intended to become. On my journey to become an author, I had many other occupations such as a store clerk, surveyor, painter, ranch hand, laboratory assistant, and farm laborer. These journeys inspired me to create some of my characters in my books, such as the main characters Lenny and George, ranch hands, in my book of Mice and Men. Where did your quest to become a writer take you?
I began my excruciating work life as an assistant physician in Birmingham, England in 1879. I was a ship surgeon on a whaling voyage to the Arctic in 1879, and I was a ship surgeon on a voyage to the west coast of Africa from 1881 to 1882. I was then a physician in Southsea, Portsmouth, England from 1882 to 1890. Then I was an ophthalmologist in London, England in 1891. I was a deputy lieutenant of the Surrey in 1902. I bought various homes wherever I worked. Where did you live?
Well, I grew up on a ranch in Salinas, California. Then, in pursuit of my writing career, I moved to New York City. In New York City, I began as a journalist and a writer for newspapers. After my final marriage, I settled down and moved back to Salinas, California, where I wrote the greater part of my famous novels. When did you start to write your books?
I began writing my books when I was a physician in Portsmouth. I wrote the majority of my books over that 9-year span, from 1882 to 1890. I wrote the books to support myself financially as a physician. As my career progressed, my love for writing took over, and I put an end to my career as a doctor. I got married to my first wife, Louise Hawkins, during my span as a physician, and she was one of the influences that led my writing career to take over and end my career as a doctor. I got married a second time to Jean Leckie 22 years later, a year after Louise died. How was your love life?
I married my first wife in 1930, Carol Henning, but we divorced in 1943. Afterwards, I was married to Gwendolyn Conger in 1943, with whom I had my only child, Dom. Dom fought in the Vietnam War, and it inspired him to become a photographer and journalist. He also wrote a few books, his most famous being The Shadow of the Cypress. I later divorced Gwendolyn in 1948, and she took Dom with her. Then I was married one last time to Elaine Anderson Steinbeck in 1950 until 1968, where she became widowed upon my death. Did you have any children, Sir Arthur?
In my first marriage, I had 2 children, Mary Louise and Kingsley. In my second marriage, I had 4 children, Dennis, Adrian, Malcolm, and Lena Jean. Although my children were the best award I could ever imagine, I did get an honor that was very important to me. I was knighted at the University of Edinburgh in 1902 for writing a short pamphlet called The War in South Africa, Its Cause and Conduct. This justified the UK's role in the Boer War and was widely translated. What awards or honors did you win?
Not to be arrogant, but I won a fair amount of awards during my life. I won the New York Drama Critics Award in 1937 and the Pulitzer Prize in 1940 for my book The Grapes of Wrath. After, I won the King Haakon Liberty Cross, which is a Norwegian award, in 1946, and I was elected to the American Academy of Arts and Letters in 1948. Then, in 1962, I won the Nobel Prize for Literature, which was my most treasured award, along with my United States Medal of Freedom, which was given to me by President Johnson in 1964. Then, in 1966, I opened an organization called the Steinbeck Society, which was a group of critics. Then, after my death, there was a museum opened in 1974 to honor my life, which was very exhilarating. Nobel Committee Chair Anders Osterling described me as an independent teller of the truth with an unbiased instinct for what is genuinely American, be it good or ill. What do critics have to say about you and your writing?
I believe my best work was Sir Nigel, a historical novel, but critics thought it was a fun adventure story, which I believe was entirely incorrect. But I never let the critics get in my head. Although that I had a tough review on that book, I never got any negative reviews on any of my Holmes books. The Holmes books were my most successful pieces of writing that I wrote during my career as an author. What were your most successful books?
All of my books were somewhat successful, but the most famous ones are Cup of Gold, my first novel, The Pastors of Heaven, The Red Pony, Tortilla Flat, Of Mice and Men, The Grapes of Wrath, The Pearl, and Cannery Row. My only real failure was my book, Smoker's Companion. Even though Smoker's Companion was not a success, I was just trying to express myself like I do in all my books. Like I always say, I hold that a writer who does not passionately believe in the perfectibility of man has no dedication nor any membership in literature. Also, I believe that the ancient commission of the writer has not changed. He or she is charged with exposing our many grievous faults and failures, with dredging up to light our dark and dangerous dreams for the purpose of improvement. These were two of my famous sayings. Did you have any famous sayings?
My most famous saying is, it is an old maxim of mine, that when you have excluded the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. This explains my belief that anything that isn't impossible is possible, no matter how improbable the task is. If it isn't impossible, it is possible. I lived my life by this motto until I died on July 7th, 1930, in Crowsborough, Sussex, England, of a heart attack. I accomplished a lot in my life, and I am very proud of what I accomplished. When and how did you die?
I died December 20th, 1968, of heart disease at the age of 66. I was a lifelong smoker, so it was a highly likely for me to die of heart disease. I died in New York, ending my career as an author. Although my family was very upset, I lived a long, adventurous life. Great to meet you, Arthur. Hope we meet again in a few years.
Same to you, John. Great meeting you as well. Maybe we will meet again in a few years and have another great chat.
Yes, hopefully we will. Well, I have to go, so great seeing you again.
Great seeing you too. Bye.